Have you ever sat on your bed at night, replaying the same thought again and again? Something someone said to you, or a decision you had to make. And by the time you stop thinking, the sun has already started rising. We all laugh about it, but deep down we know overthinking is like running on a treadmill. You feel exhausted, but you haven't moved even 1 inch forward. Life doesn't reward the best thinkers, it rewards the best doors. And the truth is, too much analysis leads to paralysis. Today, let's talk about how we can stop overthinking and start taking powerful action that actually changes our lives. My dear friends, the problem with overthinking is not that our brain is broken. It's that our brain is on autopilot. We don't even realize when a single thought enters our mind and quietly multiplies into 100 more. Something as small as someone not replying to your text can suddenly become, maybe they are upset with me, maybe I said something wrong, maybe I'm not good enough, maybe they don't even care about me anymore. And before you know it, you've written a full Bollywood script in your head. And the funniest part, 99% of it never even happens. This is why the very first step to overcoming overthinking is awareness. Just awareness. Imagine you are watching a movie and you suddenly realize, oh, this is only a movie, not real life. In the same way, when you catch yourself overthinking, you must pause and say to yourself, wait a minute, I am not my thoughts. I am just watching my thoughts. This simple realization is like turning on the light in a dark room. The monsters you thought were chasing you, they disappear. Think about it. When you drive a car, the first thing you do before starting is put on the seatbelt. Awareness is like that seatbelt for your mind. Without it, you will keep crashing into unnecessary stress, anxiety, and sleepless nights. But with awareness, you create a safe distance. You begin to observe instead of drawn. You become the driver of your mind, not the passenger. And here's a practical tip. Whenever you catch yourself thinking too much, don't fight the thought. Just name it. Tell yourself, this is worry. This is doubt. This is fear. When you give your thought a label, it loses its power over you. Because you are no longer inside the storm, you are standing outside watching it. Friends, if you can practice awareness, you've already won half the battle. Because you cannot fix a problem you don't even know exists. Overthinking thrives in darkness. Awareness brings light. And when the light comes on, the overthinking starts to fade away. Friends, one of the biggest reasons we overthink is because we want everything to be perfect. We don't just want to do the job, we want to do it flawlessly. We don't just want to start the business, we want every detail to be foolproof. We don't just want to enter a relationship, we want the guarantee that it will never hurt us. And because this perfect moment never arrives, we keep thinking and thinking, but we never do. Tell me honestly, how many of you have ever delayed sending a simple message because you were rewriting it again and again? You type one line, backspace. You add an emoji, delete. You change the words, rewrite. By the time you send it, the other person has already gone to sleep. This is what perfection does to us. It paralyzes us. And we call it carefulness, but in reality, it's just fear disguised in good clothing. Perfection, my friends, is like chasing a mirage in the desert. From far away, it looks real, it looks achievable. You keep running towards it, only to realize it doesn't exist. And even if you reach closer, the mirage just moves further away. In life, if you wait for the perfect condition, the perfect timing, the perfect plan, you'll wait your entire life. Because perfection is not real. Progress is real. Think of a child learning to walk. Does a baby wait until he's absolutely sure he won't fall? No, he just takes a step, stumbles, falls, and then tries again. Imagine if the baby thought like us adults, what if I fall? What if everyone laughs at me? What if I'm not good at walking? Then none of us would be walking today. The baby doesn't care about perfection. He just cares about trying. And because he tries, he eventually learns. Perfection is the enemy of action. And overthinking is its best friend. You know what truly builds confidence? Not a perfect plan, but imperfect action. Every small, imperfect step teaches you something. Every failure gives you feedback. Every mistake makes you wiser. That is how progress is made. Here's a truth worth remembering. People don't remember you for being perfect. They remember you for being real, for being brave enough to try, for having the courage to show up. So stop waiting for the perfect time, the perfect words, the perfect opportunity. Instead, take imperfect action now, because done is better than perfect. Friends, if you ever catch yourself thinking, I will start when everything is perfect, just remind yourself, if you don't start now, you'll still be in the same place 1 year from today, just with more regrets. So don't chase perfection, chase progress. Friends, do you know what keeps us stuck in overthinking more than anything else? It's the lack of a deadline. When we don't give ourselves a boundary, the mind takes complete freedom to wander endlessly. We think today, we think tomorrow, we think next week, and suddenly 1 year has gone by and nothing has been done. It's like opening a book and never deciding which page to stop at. You keep flipping, and flipping until the whole night has passed and you haven't absorbed a single word. Our mind is like a naughty child. If you don't give it a boundary, it will play the whole day and never stop. The same is true with decisions. If you don't give yourself a deadline, your mind will keep entertaining every possible scenario. What if this happens? What if that doesn't work? What if people don't like it? What if I fail? And while we are playing this endless what if game, life quietly passes us by. In fact, indecision is sometimes more dangerous than a wrong decision. Because with a wrong decision, at least you learn something. But with no decision, you learn nothing and you go nowhere. Have you noticed how students study only when the exam date is announced? Until then, they keep relaxing. Suddenly, 1 week before the exam, they become very disciplined. Why? Because the deadline forces them to act. Imagine if there was no exam date. Students would keep waiting for the right time to start, and it would never come. The same principle applies in life. If you don't set your own deadlines, life will pass, and opportunities will quietly slip away. Think of it like catching a train. If you know the train leaves at 6:00 p.m., you will do whatever it takes to be at the station before that. But if someone told you the train will leave sometime today, maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow, you would keep delaying until you miss it. Our actions always align with our deadlines. Without one, our mind convinces us there's always time. And let me tell you, someday is not a day of the week. If you wait for someday, it will never arrive. So here's a practice the next time you face a decision. Instead of asking yourself, what if? Ask yourself, by when? Not what if I fail, but by when will I decide? Not what if they judge me, but by when will I act? That simple shift creates urgency, and urgency creates clarity. Because when the time is ticking, the mind has no choice but to stop wandering and start focusing. Friends, remember this: indecision is a thief of time. When you don't set a deadline, the thief enters quietly and steals your days, your weeks, and eventually your years. But when you give yourself a clear boundary, you force your mind to cut through the noise and act. And once you act, even if you don't get it perfect, you are at least moving forward. And movement, my friends, is the antidote to overthinking. Friends, have you noticed that overthinking is always about the future? The mind keeps asking, what if this goes wrong? What if they don't like me? What if I fail? What if it doesn't work out? It's like our mind has become a fortune teller, constantly predicting negative outcomes. And the problem is, the future has infinite possibilities. So the more you think about what if, the more endless your overthinking becomes. It's like being trapped in a room with 1,000 doors and you keep staring at them, wondering which one to open. The truth is, you can't open 1,000 doors at once. You can only open the one in front of you. That is why the key is not what if, but what now? Let me tell you a little story. A man once wanted to cross a river. He stood at the edge, looking at the flowing water and thinking, what if I slip? What if the current is too strong? What if I drown? What if I never reach the other side? He stood there for hours, stuck in fear. Then an old wise man passed by and said, "Why are you standing here?" The young man replied, "Because I don't know what will happen if I step into the water." The wise man smiled and said, "Don't worry about the whole river. Just take the first step. When you put your foot forward, the next stone will appear beneath you." Friends, life works exactly like that. The next step often only becomes visible after you take the first one. The shift from what if to what now is powerful because it pulls you back from the future into the present. The future is uncertain, the past is gone, but the present is the only place where action is possible. For example, if you keep thinking, what if I fail the exam, you drown in anxiety. But if you ask, what now? The answer is clear. Open the book and study one chapter. If you think, what if this business doesn't succeed? You'll freeze in fear. But if you ask, what now? The answer could be make a plan, talk to one mentor, take one small step. What now always leads to action. What if always leads to paralysis. And the beauty is, when you act on what now, you automatically silence the what if, because action creates clarity. Every step you take gives you more information, more experience, and more courage. On the other hand, when you stay in what if, you get stuck in a loop. You keep predicting the future, but you never experience it. And let's be honest, most of the terrible scenarios we imagine never even happen. Studies have shown that 85% of the things we worry about don't actually come true. So all that time we spend in what if is wasted energy. I'll give you a simple tool. The next time your mind starts spiraling with what if questions, pause and write down, what can I do right now? Keep it simple. One small action. Maybe it's making a phone call. Maybe it's sending an email. Maybe it's just taking a deep breath to calm your nerves. The moment you do it, your energy shifts from anxiety to momentum. Because life doesn't change by overthinking about the future. It changes by doing something in the present. Friends, remember this: what if creates fear. What now creates power. What if keeps you trapped in imagination. What now brings you back to reality. And reality is the only place where life is lived. So the next time your mind starts wandering into 1,000 scary possibilities, don't ask what if. Instead, ground yourself and ask, what now? Friends, sometimes we think the only way to move forward in life is by making a big, bold, perfect move. We wait for the right time, the right resources, the right clarity, and the right confidence. But let me tell you a secret: the biggest changes in life often begin with the smallest, imperfect steps. You don't need to climb the whole staircase at once. You just need to take the first step. Overthinking thrives on the belief that everything must be figured out before we begin. But life doesn't work like Google Maps, where you see the entire route in advance. Life only shows you the next turn. If you're waiting for the entire road to be visible, you'll never start the journey. The magic is in moving forward, even if your step is small, even if it's shaky, even if it's imperfect. Because once you move, the path reveals itself. Think about how a ship sails at night. The captain cannot see the entire ocean. The light only shines a few meters ahead. But by moving forward, the ship eventually crosses the entire sea. In the same way, your small steps of action become your guiding light. They may look insignificant at the moment, but they create momentum. And momentum is more important than motivation. Because motivation fades, but momentum carries you forward even on the days you don't feel like trying. Friends, have you ever noticed how a small seed grows into a massive tree? The seed doesn't think, what if the soil is not perfect? What if the sunlight is too much? What if the rain doesn't come? The seed just begins. Slowly, steadily, imperfectly. It cracks open, pushes through the soil, grows leaf by leaf. Nature doesn't demand perfection. It demands consistency. That's why I always say, don't underestimate the power of one small step taken consistently. Here's the beauty of small, imperfect action. It breaks the prison of overthinking. For example, let's say you want to write a book. If you overthink, you'll keep wondering, what if people don't like it? What if it doesn't sell? What if I can't finish? But if you take small, imperfect action, you just write one page today. Not a book, not a chapter, just one page. And that one page becomes 2, then 3, then 10, and before you know it, you've written the whole book. The same applies to fitness, business, relationships, even spirituality. Progress doesn't happen in leaps, it happens in steps. Imperfect action also teaches you what no amount of thinking can. Let's say you want to start a business. You could sit for months creating the perfect plan, perfect logo, perfect website. But the moment you talk to one customer, you'll learn more in one day than you could in 6 months of thinking. Because experience is the best teacher, and experience only comes from action. Mistakes are not failures, they are feedback, and feedback refines your path. Friends, I'll share a very practical technique with you. Whenever you find yourself stuck in overthinking, ask yourself, what is the smallest step I can take right now? Not the biggest, not the perfect, just the smallest. If you're nervous about giving a speech, maybe the small step is writing down 3 points. If you're anxious about starting a fitness routine, maybe the small step is walking for 10 minutes today. If you're delaying a big project, maybe the small step is opening the file and working for 5 minutes. These steps look small, but they are powerful because they break inertia. And once inertia is broken, movement becomes natural. Remember this: overthinking builds walls, but action builds doors. The walls of doubt, fear, and perfectionism keep you trapped. But every small action creates a door that opens into possibility. The door may be imperfect, but at least it gets you out of the prison. So don't wait to take the perfect step tomorrow. Take the small, imperfect step today, because life rewards those who act, not those who endlessly think about acting. Friends, in the end, no one remembers whether your steps were perfect. They remember that you walked the path. They remember your courage, your effort, your willingness to try, and most importantly, you yourself will feel the joy of progress. So take that small, imperfect action. For that is how great journeys are always begun. Friends, one of the silent killers of action is not always fear, it's too many choices. Have you ever gone to a restaurant where the menu has 50 pages? By the time you finish reading it, you're not hungry anymore. You wanted to eat, but now you're stuck wondering, should I try Italian? No, maybe Chinese. Or wait, Mexican looks good. But oh, look at this special deal. By the time you decide, the waiter is more tired than you are. This is what psychologists call the paradox of choice. Too many options create confusion, and confusion breeds overthinking. Our ancestors didn't have this problem. Hundreds of years ago, if they wanted to eat, the only choice was to hunt or not to hunt. If they wanted to wear clothes, the choice was between two colors of cloth, not 200 brands. But in today's world, we are drowning in choices. What career should I choose? Which phone should I buy? Which person should I marry? Even something as small as which Netflix series to watch takes half an hour of scrolling. And while we are scrolling, deciding, and doubting, time is quietly slipping away. Too many options don't give us freedom, they paralyze us. Friends, let me tell you a story. A man went to buy toothpaste. He entered the shop, and the shelves were full of hundreds of colorful boxes. Whitening, herbal sensitive, mint fresh, clove, gel, extra gel, triple action. He stood there frozen for 10 minutes. Finally, he walked out without buying anything. Now, here's the irony. If there were only two choices, say red box or blue box, he would have picked one in seconds and gone home happy. Sometimes, reducing options makes life easier. That's why successful people simplify. They don't waste energy on unnecessary choices. Steve Jobs wore the same type of black turtleneck every day. Why? Because he didn't want to spend mental energy deciding what to wear. He saved that energy for more important decisions. When you limit your options, you reduce overthinking. For example, instead of saying, I'll start exercising, but should I join a gym? Should I do yoga? Should I buy equipment? Should I get a trainer? Just start with walking every morning. One option. Instead of saying, I'll start reading, but should I read philosophy, psychology, business, or novels? Just pick one book and start. One option, because the more choices you give your mind, the more excuses it creates to delay action. Have you noticed? Even when people want to get married, overthinking begins. Should I marry this person or wait for someone better? What if there's someone else out there who is more compatible, more attractive, more successful? And in chasing the perfect choice, they sometimes miss the good one standing right in front of them. Remember, friends, life is not about finding the perfect choice. It's about making a choice and then making it perfect with your effort and commitment. Here's a very practical tip. Whenever you are overwhelmed with choices, narrow them down. Write down all the options, then cut them to 2 or 3 at most. Then decide quickly. Don't keep 10 doors open in your head. Close the extra doors, and suddenly your path feels lighter. Because clarity doesn't come from having more choices. Clarity comes from having fewer. Friends, remember this. Abundance of choice is not always abundance of freedom. Sometimes it is a prison disguised as freedom. If you want peace of mind and progress in life, simplify your options. Because when the path is simple, the steps become easier, and when the steps are easier, action naturally follows. My dear friends, life is too short to be spent inside the prison of our own minds. Overthinking is like sitting in a rocking chair. It keeps you busy, but takes you nowhere. You can think and think and think, but in the end, only action moves you forward. Awareness, letting go of perfection, setting deadlines, asking what now, taking small imperfect steps, simplifying choices, detaching from outcomes, calming your mind, all of these are not just theories, they are practical keys.